That's what he looked like he was looking for, I don't know.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance, stand please.
Don't stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's call the board meeting to order at 6:34 p.m. Can I have an approval of the agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
Any questions, any additions? I think we're good.
Yep, I just will need 2 executive sessions.
Okay, so 2 executive sessions. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approval of the minutes from September 3rd, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, any corrections?
Yeah, it just doesn't have that Cheryl was here last week. There's nothing by her name. I don't know if that matters.
She was
She
here.
did a whole spiel.
Yeah.
Cheryl.
The
Oh, and the school stuff. Yep, the
Yeah, food service.
Yep. All right, thank you. Anything else? I know, right? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, excellent, thank you. Public comment? Okay, thank you all for coming. Correspondence, anything? No. Nothing? Okay, committee reports. Finance Committee. You, Trev.
All right, hold on. Sorry.
It's all right,
Just
sorry.
jumped to my other. First thing we went over was provision 2. Provision 2 is a way for us to pay for all lunches for all students. We looked at dollar amounts on that, and Cheryl was kind enough to hand out some estimates. Can you hand those out?
Yep.
So we were looking at year one estimate of $24,648. That would be this year, fiscal year '20. There are some cost savings to this. We in the last year we've had to fund had to pay for some delinquent lunches, the amount of about $8,000. And then there is some combined savings as well for time of managing this. So that would help out a little bit. The Finance Committee felt that this was a worthy thing to fund, and I think we're bringing this to the board for a full. So we're going to bring this to the board for a full vote to make a decision on whether or not we move forward with funding all school lunches going forward. Any questions on that? Yeah, Tim.
How would the current year be phased in?
It, after it would, this year would be the base year. After 30 days, then you would announce that all students have free lunch, do not need to pay for meals. So it would be an announcement, and it just starts.
It just starts, so rough approximation would be November 1st, everyone gets free lunches.
I think the 30 days is gonna come up in the beginning of October, and so it could be sometime in October. I don't know, not having done this, I don't know exactly if the state then recommends you announce and then start November 1st, or if once you announce, you just have to start. I don't know the details on that yet.
And you don't have to resend out all those financial questions that parents are supposed to fill out and send back?
Well, you don't, not for this year, but you still need to collect applications in future years, not for lunch eligibility, because there are other programs that rely on your percent of free and reduced lunch in order to determine funding.
We would stress the importance of getting as many back in this
Yep.
initial base year, because
Yep.
it sets the calculation for the next 3 or 4 years.
That's right.
So are you satisfied with the return rate that we got, or should we need to send them out again to hope?
No, well, so if students send them in, it's a hard thing to tell. You don't really know. Everybody gets an application. We encourage everybody to complete an application. Certainly, if somebody who might be eligible who chooses not to fill out an application and just send food in with their student, there's no way for us to know that they've made that choice without looking at an application that they've completed. Certainly, there are families that are not eligible and have issues paying for their students' meals. You know, they're just over the eligibility.
Well, I don't
and they
fill
have
out
a
that form,
challenge.
'cause
Right.
I don't like it. But if you're saying that if people like me filled it out and others filled it out because we knew the importance that it would, now we're getting a
Really,
direct
what we're
benefit
trying to
from it.
capture is the people that are not filling it out that might be eligible. And there's no way to know, and there's no way to make anybody do it other than to, we have to just try to get everybody to fill it out, because I don't know from family to family whether or not some family might be more likely to be eligible or not eligible. Certainly when we see that families are having trouble paying for their meals, and that's one of the first things we look at, is whether or not they completed an application. If they didn't complete an application, we ask them to. Sometimes they say, well, I know I'm not eligible. We try to get them to still fill it out. You might be surprised, because there's a lot that goes into the calculation. So
We would
there's a
still have
lot
to
that
have
goes
them
into it.
fill it out every year anyways,
Yeah.
because of the eligibility for SAT waivers, PSAT waivers, I don't know, other programs at different levels. You get things based on whether you're eligible or not. So we'd still have them fill it out, even though everybody's getting free lunch and breakfast.
Yeah.
I have another kind of question on the other side. If we do adopt this, I know some families just send in money ahead of time and keep their account on balance. What will happen to those? Would that just stay there
We would
for
give
like
them their
a la
money.
carte purchases?
No, that they could leave it for à la carte. Probably what we do, which is what we do with graduating seniors now, is we send out a letter and say, you have a balance. We don't do it for every balance. I think it was everything over like $2. You have a balance. We look for younger siblings to move it to? You have a balance. Do you wish to receive payment on that balance? If you don't, then the monies go back in to support the food service program.
So we could give them a choice to say
had-
for à la carte if there's à la carte at the school, or,
Send out
but it
about-
doesn't automatically get absorbed into.
Am I correct in the assumption that there's no alterations to the quality or options? Not at all?
Well, the hope would
It's
be
gonna be a lot more
that
lunches,
the hope would be participation goes up, which means the district has to pay more. If participation increases significantly, the district has to make up the difference. These are estimates, and there's a lot of assumptions in here. Participation often does go up, so you may pay more. And if there's more participation in the program, it makes for a healthier program where they can, offer more options and things.
hadn't thought of it that
And
way.
you would see some improvement in the program. And I also explained, we're getting ready, this year, we have to go out to bid for next year's contract. So this would be a good time to look at the program overall, talk about things that are happening in all the schools, talk about what goals and preferences and things we have as a district for the program, and see how we could incorporate that into a bid.
I'm just really curious about the amount of food that's given, because I've noticed two things, having worked in schools that have this program. One is that the amount of food given becomes reduced per student, and the other is the amount of waste is fairly incredible. So I know that sounds like it should be, it should be able to be fixed. So I wonder if we could do anything about that if this goes through. Also, I have noticed many students who want a milk, they have to take the entire lunch. And then they throw the entire lunch out and they drink their milk. So I just guess that I have that duty where I stand there and watch those trays be dumped every day,
So
many of
that's,
them. So
that's the national, those are the requirements, that's federal.
I know that, I'm just,
You have no choice about that. In terms of reduced amount of food, I have no idea. I don't know why that would be, but,
I don't know, where I am, they can't get seconds.
sorry,
They can't get any kind of seconds, there's no.
they probably have to pay for them.
Well, yes, but
Right, if they
obviously
wanted
those are the kids
seconds,
who
they would,
can't.
because that's the thing.
Right.
This program's paying for a meal for everybody, so probably if they want seconds, they have to pay for it. If they want à la carte, they have to pay for it, it doesn't, it's not like, it's not completely a free-for-all, so, for lack of a better term, because the meals are free. There still are a lot of requirements and parameters in terms of the meal and the size of the meal and the portions, because, the portions equate to their calculations on how much fat, how much salt, how many carbohydrates, all of that's in a meal. And that's why when they hand out those meals, they're very prescribed in the portions, because the combination of the meal meets the requirement for a reimbursable meal according to the federal guidelines.
I don't know if we do
And
this.
so milk is part of that, is part of that whole calculation. That's why in order for it to be reimbursable, they have to take a milk, because you can only get reimbursed on a meal that meets those standards. I know, it's crazy, but
So
that's the
we
way the
participate
program
in summer
works.
food with Upward Bound, so I educate my students on what portion sizes are. You know what I mean? So they understand, and like, do we educate our kids about like why they're getting what they're getting? I mean,
So I think there are signs when they go through the line, which I think is supposed to kind of lay out in some way, why the components of the meal, and, because it's, like I said, it's all prescribed, the components and, the makeup
it is.
of the.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess one of the reasons I look at the waste.
Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing that I would, that I've heard from my kids and from other people's kids is that the food's awful. And I mean, that maybe that's just, sort of school lunch from time immemorial, but you're not gonna get more people to sign up for school lunches if the quality is what it is today. It's just, like, my kids are like practically protesting what, they're just like, just make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I'm fine with that. So I think that we've got like a serious problem with and it seems like it's gotten worse in the last couple of years. I don't know if we've changed vendors,
No, I mean, the requirements have become more and more stringent in terms of, you can't salt and sugar and fat and all those things. And so they can't, it can't be mashed potatoes with a pat of butter on it, because that just totally blows the,
Well, I mean, I'm talking about things
the
like
whole
salad bar.
component.
Like, they're like, what am I eating in the salad bar? Like, they're taking pictures of it and sending
Right.
it to me. They're
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't feed that to my kids at
Well,
home.
when
So,
participation in the lunch program goes down, they cut staff, so they can't usually offer as many options as we once had. So that's part of the issue.
we're kind of in a spiral here.
Yeah.
We need to increase our participation in the program to get more options for our kids.
Yeah, that's maybe the way to pitch it. Not
Yeah.
here's more of the same, but if you join,
Right.
if we all sort of rising tide lifts all boats kind of scenario, because they're just like, ugh.
Right, when you have one person cooking and serving the food, I mean, there's only so much.
I'm not saying I know what the
That's-
cause is, and I'm not trying to point fingers at it. I'm just
That's
saying.
part of it, is decreased participation in terms of numbers.
And it's not just my picky kids, it's other people's
Yeah.
picky kids.
No, I'm just curious about, from a waste standpoint, because I know that waste, it's gonna cost us more, the state, has that push on to charge us for waste. So as you increase a program, I wouldn't want our waste to end up
Compost,
being,
right, we'll
you
be
know.
required to
for-
do compost.
Yeah, you have to make sure you're composting and all the rest of it, and
Right.
I'm just, it's just a conversation. I mean, I'm not saying it's a
There's
good
no
or a
way to
bad,
know.
I think it's really an important conversation to have.
I would say I can't give you an answer on either of those.
I think one of the big things to think about is it will be almost impossible to go back. So once we start, it's going to be, it would be a bear to go back. So it's something that we really need to make sure we make the right decision. Any more questions?
Does this impact any of the kids that go to Stafford or any of the other programs outside of the school? Does that?
Stafford has Rutland City has community
Only through eighth
eligibility.
grade. K-8.
Community eligibility, K-8, okay. So we determine their eligibility here, and we convey that to their sending school.
So what does that mean?
So high school students that go to Stafford, their family has to send their application here, and we process the application. It's part of our district's free and reduced number. We convey their eligibility to Stafford.
So if they're free and reduced here, they get free and reduced there.
So for
Right.
provision 2 here, they'd get provision 2 there.
I don't know how that would work.
Thinking that's the question.
That's
Right.
exactly the
I
question.
have no idea.
Yeah, have to look at that.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion,
Free lunch.
Okay,
or I'll second it.
Angela seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
So I'll do some more work. Probably the next step will be some sort of an announcement that comes out in kind of a more formal way. I'll have to do a little more work on exactly how to do that, but we'll have to notify families that you've made this decision, and yeah, you might want to do a press release on it. I think it's a great thing, so you might like to get some good press on that.
Okay, then, all right.
I was just gonna say, I think this will be one of those things that'll help us attract students to the school as well.
Okay, next thing we talked about was fiscal year 20 financial statement review. Cheryl gave us a sample report from the new system. They're still working hard on it. The employees have been working very diligently to get to this new system, and working on some different issues, but it's coming. They're going to need to move forward with it because guess what? The budget timeline came out. We have to start working on that in the next month. Or actually, the administration and the schools have to start working on their budget timeline. And then that was about it. Anything you want to add, Cheryl?
No.
All right, thank you. Policy Committee.
I think we will have to wait till the next meeting.
No, we
You can
don't.
do it?
Right, I double checked.
All right. We have policies C40, C44, C45, and D30. I make a motion to adopt those policies.
Second. I have a question.
Any discussion?
I have a question on the, whichever one's the animal one.
C44.
So it says for, certain animals that are allowed to come to school with permission, who's the permission from?
I think it's administration.
I gotta find where it is in there.
Crickets are allowed. I'm just saying.
Down on their, snakes and reptiles that aren't poisonous.
Is that on that?
We have
it's on this-
reptiles and amphibians.
Yeah.
Depends on where he wants to bring that snake.
No, I can't find it in there.
Oh, Slate Valley Schools will determine whether following animals are allowed or prohibited.
Right.
So who does that come from? Is that what you're asking? Like who's allowing or prohibiting?
Yeah, so if I want to bring my snake back to Orwell, do I get permission from Mr. Walter still?
The snake's a big hit in Orwell.
The snake's been going there for 15
Oh, you're
years.
serious about the snake?
No,
Alright,
he's serious.
okay.
If he doesn't bring the snake to the kids in Orwell, there's gonna be an open mutiny.
Yeah, I mean,
I
they
only
just,
think
they
that-
can't touch it.
No, I only think that's
Right.
true if you invite
Right.
all the other schools to some
Right,
serious
but this is the existing policy.
Snake Day.
No, I
Right.
understand that, but so in the past, we just got permission from Patrick.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
fine.
the same, the
That's
same
fine.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
all that
yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah.
I'd like a form.
Why can't they? Why can't
Well,
they
it says
can't
if they
touch
touch it, they have to wash their hands right
So,
afterwards.
yeah, yeah, right.
Which, and that's a policy we've always had. If they
Correct.
touch it, they have to wash it.
Yes, yeah, yes. Salmonella.
They can touch the snake, but they have to wash their hands.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that makes sense.
Right,
We've had the snake there 15 years and never had an incident.
right. We just can't have wild animals.
How much longer will the snake live? 15 years, that's pretty
Well,
good.
he's 32 right now.
Oh my goodness, all right. Just checking.
Snakes get a long time.
They do, that's fantastic. All right, so any
He's a
other?
she.
He's a she.
Are you sure?
Yes, for sure.
Any other questions about animals or other policies? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Julie wanted to.
Oh, okay, we can add them.
And
Yep,
then,
yep.
yeah.
Okay.
It's all right.
Slate Valley Innovation Committee questions from report. I feel like I need a drum roll. All right.
Casey's going, what, you want me to turn this on?
No, I got it on.
Oh,
Warm it up?
oh, you want us to move?
No, it's up
No.
to you guys.
No, no, no.
I just wanted you to know that it's turning on mine.
So we're gonna
Okay.
start a Google Doc, and Casey is going to graciously type our questions out so we can all see them, so that we know that our questions are being put up there.
So maybe we should just
Um,
go around.
Yep, well, we're gonna go through section by section too, like executive summary, summary findings. We can just go through each section too and ask, so at least we can answer them in some kind of order. Instead of having questions all over the place that we then have to combine into, did the same person, ask, or different people ask the same question in different places. So, all right. Can we start, Casey?
Yes.
All right, awesome. So we're gonna start right on page 1, executive summary. Were there any questions about the executive summary portion of this? All right, what about go ahead.
I'm sorry, can I just ask a
Yep.
clarifying question? Because I think, like, I have questions that, my questions that I'm asking, I'm assuming are supposed to be questions that we think we're gonna hear from the floor. Is that kind of correct, or not?
Could be.
Okay.
Other people might
So-
be going through each section, so we could have it at the end, we could have like summary questions or, questions you're thinking of or something like that.
I'm just saying they could be in many
Yep.
areas, so I'm not sure where, you know what I mean? Like, I read through it and then I did the questions, so,
Yeah, that's fine,
okay,
yeah.
okay. So I'm just
Yeah,
not sure where to put
If you're looking at
them.
your questions and you see it makes sense to put it there, fine. If
Okay.
not, we can do some at the end too.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
great,
fine.
thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Summary findings.
Well, I have questions.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know which section they fit into.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So did you read the whole thing
read it.
and
Oh,
then,
yes.
and then, like, do global questions?
Yes, that's what I did.
Okay, no, seriously,
They
or
appear in
did
multiple
anybody,
sections.
well, did anybody go through and have questions about certain things in the specific lines or specific items that were stated in the report? All right.
Not so much.
Okay, no, that's all right, I didn't know if some people would go through and be like, what does that mean, our current facilities have varying degrees of,
One thing is misleading because they list out all the wish list items in all the schools, so you could be led to believe that you get all of that, but it obviously does say on a few different occasions that despite this, it's been determined that we don't need any of it, so it's a little bit of a disconnect there.
so can you give me an example, what would be a wish
Well, just-
list?
Well, let me find the paragraph that says,
Page you on?
It's probably page 11,
yeah, it's in multiple places.
13. Yeah, it's when we did the initial evaluation of each of the
So it's when the
schools.
committees from each school came back and said, hey, here's what we would like to see in the core infrastructure maintenance and upgrades.
I think it's starting on page 26, or screen 26 that I have, I'm
We were
not
looking
sure.
at 11, which
Oh,
was like
sorry.
Benson Village School, they want,
Okay, it's on page 2A, is where it first
Oh.
appears.
I don't know, I'm looking at it
Every
in a
one of
Word
the
doc, so
district's
I have
element-
no idea.
Every one of the district's elementary schools has in varying degrees ongoing needs related to maintenance and core infrastructure. However, only Orwell and the elevator
Yep.
need, so that's what the executive summary is, but yet you include all these other items under each elementary school. It makes you believe that you're getting all this stuff under this.
No, that's a good.
I don't know if this
We
is a
talked about
document for
that.
the public.
Well, it will be on the
That is
website,
definitely
yeah.
misleading for the public, I would
Yeah.
think. Go through
No,
this and you're like, oh,
actually-
Benson's gonna get
actually,
the
Julie and I
HVAC
talked
and the
about that
windows
already.
and the tile and, no.
Yeah, so starting on page 11, when it starts going through each school.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
think that information is really necessary unless it's gonna be part of the package, which it's
Okay.
not.
Anybody else have any thoughts about that?
I agree.
It's excessive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So having all the needs in there from each individual school, is it important at least to, well, I guess it depends on what decision we make too, as to whether we're just hitting core, if you guys, just hitting core infrastructure. What's gonna be in our regular budget for maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. Then that would be relevant.
It provides an overall context of how grand the scope of this repair is, but it's not in the budget
Right.
being proposed, most likely.
Well, core infrastructure is,
No, it's not. Core infrastructure's,
No, not in all of them.
So the question is, at Benson Village School, will the roof be replaced
no.
if this does not go through?
No, will the
Correct,
floor
so
be
that's what
replaced?
you're
No.
asking,
It
right?
wouldn't, no.
does go
These are
through, it
things
won't
that could
be
happen over
replaced.
time, but it's not
Right.
part of
Right,
this
so
official
maybe
act.
putting it at the end and then appendices, maybe for something to be considered, I don't know. But just to make
or
it
do we,
clear.
does that information even need to be in here?
About the,
Well, they should be included as the overall study, what we looked at, what was included in that, but then it should definitely be clarified as to,
Yeah.
in the event the bond passes, this is what would be included
Right.
in that.
Perhaps moving it to an appendix.
Or a
would be
different
appropriate,
section.
So we still acknowledge it, but not.
Like the committee looked at the following, then each building, or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's your author?
Yep, go ahead.
So, in terms of the process of how that evolved, so we looked at, we thoroughly looked at what the infrastructure and, code issues were at each one of the buildings. And as that was in process, in part because the school district continued to have budgets and continued to repair things, that list got whittled down. So that's an accurate list of what the needs are in the building, but the report also says in that summary that all of those infrastructure needs, except for the elevator and the renovations at Benson, will be dealt with future, at this point, for the foreseeable future, was the feeling of the committee that it could be dealt with by annualized budget, et cetera. So, help me understand, because if I'm going to reframe this for you, where is that misleading?
It's misleading because if I approve a $60 million price tag and I'm under the impression that every school is gonna get everything on their list right now with that $60 million, it's gonna take care of me for the next 5 to 10 years, that's the misleading part.
So that's how they're reading it. They're reading it with, that's what that information is telling them.
60 million includes all of this. That's the way I read it, but that's
Okay,
just
let me
me.
ask you part B. I think I understand that point. So part B is the list of upgrades is totally dependent on whether the board decides to move the middle school. And because the board has not made that decision, or to create a consolidated middle school, we haven't priced that out. And if you go to the summary, it basically, of the costs, it says exactly what is covered, which is, the cost period is the high school, core infrastructure, then, code, then core infrastructure, then bringing meeting the educational specifications of the high school, and then if you want to add a middle school. And so that list, that wish list that has to do with what you might do with the elementary schools is not priced out because the board has not made the decision, okay? And if the board wants to know what that cost figure is, that can be generated for you, so you know, well, if we go to 60 million, is it really 65 million in order to get the total list? The only reason we didn't do that is that it's a pricey use of your architect right now, and so it's left in abeyance. What I'm hearing is that you're concerned that the elementary school list needs to be clarified, that at this point, what's on that list except for the elevator and the Orwell is included in the 60. The rest is not, and is dependent on those two things that I talked about. Is that your concern?
Yeah.
Okay, I can work on it.
And I agree with your concern. Why do you want to price that out I agree with your concern. Why would you want to price that out if we decide to do a middle school and then maybe some of those items aren't as of priority? So I
Right,
agree
because you
with
need to get the architect into each one of those buildings and get a redesign plan for each of those buildings. So it's more a list of what you could do or what the opportunities in elementary school education would be if you consolidated your middle school. And that's as far as the committee went.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So I guess we're just gonna go global questions. Do we want to go around the room?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So do you want to keep going, Tim? Since you started with your other questions?
Sure. My second question, and we talked about this at one of the innovation meetings and I forgot, but the question is, up until what option would the autonomous middle school no longer be viable? For example, if you go to option 3, $28 million, does then the autonomous middle school not make sense in the future? You answered this question.
Yes, because we would have done everything we could to this building right here, and then to add any kind of middle school, we'd have to rip out what we just did.
Okay.
So yes, that's
a correct
exactly
answer.
right.
We have to join up here?
And we kind of anticipated that question.
Right.
Yes.
So our architect is looking at, if you guys do pick the 28 million option, is there a way to kind of future-proof a middle school for here?
Okay.
So we have
Right.
that in the works,
So
if
yes.
that's the way the board is leaning, so we do have some options there.
Right, so I guess at this point, while you might get something that's a little bit differently, the plan that I saw as of 2 days ago, if you were to do just the $28 million renovation of the high school and leave in abeyance the decision as to whether or not you want to consolidate the middle school, as of the time that the report was written, it pretty much closed out, okay, the option of getting an autonomous middle school where you could share core facilities and meet the total educational specifications for the middle school that you're talking about. John was not particularly satisfied with that outcome, so he went back to the drawing board. So what I saw 2 days ago is a potential plan that if you made that decision, it wouldn't forego meeting the educational specifications for a building plan later, which underscores what I put in print there, that this is still a fluid process. So as the board moves closer to what it thinks is its, whatever that is, the architect would continue to work. Now, that plan, in order to make that plan work, you'd end up with 2 kitchens. That may not be a deal breaker, but everything else works. But in order to make it work, you need 2 kitchens. So, and he can certainly come in and show you that versus the original one.
So let's get through this report first.
Right.
And
So-
then whenever.
So the point
when-
is that that's fluid.
Yes, yes, it is.
2 more questions. I'll
Yep.
make it quick. I appreciate
That's
this
okay.
time.
Should I erase that question then, Tom?
No, leave it.
No,
Because
leave it.
other people might
Yep.
have it.
All right, the next question is, I've expressed my concern about the excess capacity, but that's not my question. My question would be the Castleton Village School. So obviously in the report it says, up until the date of printing, this potential partnership with the college. Is that true? I mean, I've read articles about how the college is gonna retrofit the president's house and move the program there. I'm not done. And then the second question would be, what's the relationship with the town? Because I thought there was an agreement where the town sold us a school for $1, and then if it's no longer a school, we sell it back for $1. Maybe it's maybe the town wants the school back because they have they could develop it or use it as recreational space, whatever. So what's the legalese with the town?
Right.
And the $1?
Well, for the Castleton University, we got asked to write another letter of support, because yet they're still writing more grants. They are definitely moving the childcare facility into the president's office. Like, they're a go. They're 100, since St. Joe's closed and there's no longer, they're a go for childcare. That's a new
but not
program.
in the
That's a new.
village school.
No, but they're a to-go to do it, and then they still have a 5-year plan to increase the size of it. So they're still looking for space, and will continue to look for space.
I just don't know if that's fair to use that as a selling point.
No, I mean.
It might be our hope and our desire
yeah,
in the
yeah.
future, but it's not likely to happen in the near term
So-
at least.
And right, this wouldn't be selling it to
No.
the university, this would be
Rent.
leasing probably, us repurposing the space.
Can we do that? Are we
can
not
do that
obliged
under
to sell
the.
that back to the town for $1? How does that
No,
language-
if we're using, if it's impacting our kids at all, we were talking about putting an early childhood center, and creating a lab school with our students, so we can educationally repurpose that building and lease it to the university.
I'm wondering how the delineation occurs. What happens if it becomes more of a Castleton University run program? Well, now it's not the school, it should have been sold back to the town for $1.
But it's
Well,
affecting
right,
our
and then it
kids.
would also be Castleton and Hubbardton that get to decide, because they both own the school, not just Castleton.
All right, well, that's a question. And
So
then-
that's something we can certainly work on.
Then my last question was, when we vote, I guess it'd be a month from now, will we be voting on specific bond language? Because I would be much more inclined to support a bond that says, will the voters approve 20 million for the essentials? If yes, will you approve an additional 40 for the middle school? As opposed to a bond that says, will you give us 60 million? So the language is important to me. So when I vote, I'd like to know what the language is. That's all my questions, thank you.
We'll have to ask a lawyer, because they would write the bond language, right?
Well, I think it depends on the direction that you want to go. I mean,
Right.
this board's going to need to decide, do you want to go out with one question, or do you want to
I
put
don't think we
two
can
questions or
jeopardize the
conditional?
infrastructure that we need here, and I'm just afraid that a
Right.
$60 million is gonna
We-
scare people
yeah.
off, there could be negative backlash, and then we don't get the stuff that we deem to be essential.
We talked about that, like an if/or question on there, we
So
talked about
I
that.
can
And there's positives and negatives to it, right? I mean,
Yep.
what if you get the no in the beginning and a yes in the, I don't know, there's,
So
yeah.
we'll talk to an attorney about it. I
You
mean,
can also, if you do it in March, you can do it again. You
Right,
just have to wait 30 days.
right.
And you can rewarn a new amount. There's a pros and
March is not
cons
the end
of
of the
having
vote.
2 questions on a budget, on a vote.
Get all my questions?
Right, Peter, do you have any
I just,
questions?
well, I wasn't at the last invocation meeting, so we have the option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Are we as a board deciding which option we're gonna go with tonight?
No.
No.
Tonight's just questions on the
On the whole
14th
thing.
of
Make your
October.
the next meeting will be discussed, the next meeting there would be discussion, and then the 14th, the
Okay.
board needs to make a decision about what direction you want to go into, so we can get more
Right.
details.
Right, so, but as it stands right now, we could, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it is, we could pick option 3 if we want. And that's what we
As a
go with.
board,
And
yes.
forgetting the middle school, we might, so we're putting out there the option of not doing the middle school right now if we don't want to.
Yeah,
For the board, yeah.
And that's what I mean, it's
Yeah,
up to the
yeah.
board. That's
Yep.
all I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to know.
Yep.
I don't have any other questions.
Amy,
It was a clarifying
sat
question.
through every other meeting, you're good?
I've been at all the other meetings.
All right. Tony?
Tim asked one of the questions that I had.
Mike?
Question, I'm still kind of confused, and it is the direction is, overwhelmingly out in the community, I've heard that they are in support of a district middle school. I don't know that they would also be in support of $60 million to get there when we have perhaps that underutilized space in each of our buildings. So are we prepared, or can we say, yes, we would move forward with a district middle school regardless of an addition? Because that's what our community is asking for, and that's what we feel as an administration and a board is great for our students. Or are we looking at, in the event the building bond doesn't work out, the district middle school is off the table as well because of, despite the support for the district middle school?
You can, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we looked at housing a middle school at other, locations, no matter what we did, there would have to be some type of renovation or some type of reconfiguration. So I don't think you're totally escaping the cost. It might be less.
Right.
Certainly, you know, and I can certainly get a more detailed answer. I mean, but we did look at that in the beginning as to how we could reconfigure, and there really wasn't a good option to get everything that we wanted with the educational specifications that we got from the community and the staff and the students. So, so you would be compromising some of that.
And then when you say that
So-
there's underutilized space in each of those buildings, where did you get that information?
We've heard that at meetings.
Many times. 'Cause I had the exact same question.
We've heard that many
Fair question.
times, that there's unutilized space here. I think Fairhaven Grade, if I remember, previous meetings, was the only school that may
one's
not,
packed, yeah.
may
Right.
not have space, but all of the others have space available.
Okay.
It's just not, nobody has enough.
Right,
So that's,
Right.
that's the piece.
And we did add in here too, the high school utilization. And we're at pretty good capacity here. Like, we're not as underutilized, I think, as people believe we are.
Or
And-
we were originally told.
Or we originally
Correct.
told.
We've educated
too.
on-
Yeah, we've been educated on what it
Right.
means to be at capacity in a high school. It doesn't mean every single room's being used every single time, right? It has to do with scheduling and where kids are and teacher prep
And
and
we have many more
offices and-
specialized programming
Right.
now.
Right, right. So that, yeah, we were led to believe in the beginning that there was a lot more space here when there is really not a lot of space here at the high school. And he put the chart in there that kind of lets you know how the scheduling goes here. But yeah, I still think that's, I mean, yeah, underutilized space is a interesting phenomenon. It's different in each school and, yeah, maybe not as much or more than we think. All right. Trevor?
I'm good.
You're good? Rebecca?
Would there be a way to include in, so people don't get sticker shock with the 68, to let them know what the cost would be if we tried to do it later? Would that be if we went with the 28, how much more would it cost if we did it later? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Would it be more than the 58? Would we be saving money?
Right.
Wouldn't that be a way to help sell this?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
So they could see it, and like you said, how it would cost to renovate any of the other buildings. Let people know those numbers so they're not saying, well, it's gonna cost so much less. Well, tell them what exactly it's gonna cost, so this 58 doesn't look so bad.
Right, right.
And I think when we make a decision, or like Peter said, he's already working on like what it would look like for the 28, but if we chose 28, but it's still gonna cost millions to do it.
So is it gonna be 28 plus another 50
Right.
to do it later?
Right.
Are we gonna be saving more money by doing it
Now
the
one
full
time
shot?
instead of twice.
Yes.
I think, just to clarify, the 28 gets your high school done. To get to 68, it's basically another 30. Most of the middle school plans are coming in around 30 plus. So what was holding us up in terms of design was if you only made a decision to right-size the high school, bring it up to speed, and get the maximum utilization out of the building that you possibly can. That's 28 million, but if you did that, it seemed to violate any possibility of having the kind of middle school educational program that you wanted. Because what on the previous drawing, what makes that work is the degree of which you're sharing core spaces like arts, music, et cetera, and the drawing that we had a week ago said, well, if you do this, you've moved things around in such a way that we can no longer do that shared piece. So John did not like that, okay? So we now have a design whereby if you wanted to go back and do it, you can. Now, in terms of whether it would cost you more money, in terms of the design as it stands today, no. And in fact, the design that he has right now might be a little less expensive than the full build-out one that we have on the first design because of of the way that that design works. We don't need to go into that details, but let's say that costs $30 million. It's going to cost you $30 million regardless. Whether or not, whether the price goes up is really about, well, what will happen to bonding between now and the time you do it? What will happen to inflation in terms of the cost of materials, et cetera, et cetera. In general, the general rule of thumb is you build now, it's cheaper than building later. Trying to codify what that number is, I don't know how I could do. I'm not sure that even John could give you a number that you could use with, and say, no, this is, if you wait 5 years, it's going to be another 2 million. If you wait 6 years, it's going to be another, 6 million or something like that. But the way it's divided up, the jump from whatever the high school is to the middle school, that will stay the same. And it might be a little less if you choose a different design.
Unless we lose a lot more of our tax base, that's gonna be painful too, in the future, right? We have less people to spread it out over. It's not helpful either. Is that everything?
Yeah.
Okay. Patty?
I don't even know how to ask this question really, but, so I'm just wondering as I look at this report about when we talk about infrastructure, and I know that obviously I'm fairly new to this whole thing, so I might be talking about things that you've already talked about, and I apologize in advance, but I'm thinking about technological infrastructure so that we're really looking at, 21st century skills. I'm not as concerned that there are spaces that look like what they look like today. I'm much more concerned that there are places where kids can access the bandwidth they need, and I don't know enough about technology to be able to go into all of the little tiny pieces of that, but I watch kids every day so frustrated with little circles going around on computer screens that they can't access because there are walls that don't allow for this to go through and that to go through. And particularly for middle school students who don't have the ability to attend to that screen long enough, I think that that's a really important part of whatever we do. And again, I apologize if it's in there and I just don't know the details, but I think that's one of the most important things we can do for them.
Anything else?
I'll let it go.
You sure? It's
Yeah.
okay.
No, it's fine.
All right. Okay. You can always email it.
I figure, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it
That's
in
fine.
secret. It'll
Okay,
be better.
That's fine. That's fine. Angela?
I
For
think,
all the meetings too?
I think I've sat through all the meetings and had all my questions belabored.
Josh?
This is very much like Patty's question, and I'm not really sure it's a question. And it could be the cart before the horse, but in my mind, the infrastructure supports the innovation. And there was some clear language in the report, and some language that even I, as an educator, am a little unclear on, like what is flex, what is pod. Just so if there was a way to really be able to maybe just give snapshots of innovative curricula. What are we looking at? I mean, the building's flashy, but I care about the curriculum. And what is that going to look? So just, I don't know, I'm thinking like a textbook format where you have an example would be, I would like to see that. And I think that, the community members would as well.
So, yeah, I think we got some feedback on how to go back at this. And we'll have answers for questions. And then you can always, please, guys, to email anything that comes to you or that you think of or anything like that. And then on the 14th, when we answer, not the 14th, on the 30th, when we answer those questions, I think we also all should be thinking about our constituents that we represent in our, how do you think they would like this presented? What ways could we present it to them? What do they want to know? Like Josh says, there's people that want to know about curriculum. Are there people that also want to know about the 1959 heating system? Will that get redone? Are there people that, want to know, are we going to knock down walls and our classroom's going to be more open? So just kind of think about who you talk to, and if you had to sell this to somebody, what would they want to know about this project that we could tell them to?
Can I give a preliminary to Josh, just to make sure I understand what he's talking about? So typically in an elementary school, you have self-contained units of kids by grade level. And in a high school, basically you have a mass of kids that are moving their way through a sequential program of study. English 9, English 10, English 11. Typically, if you're an English 9, you're not a grader. That doesn't mean there can't be a 10th grader who hasn't done well or something like that. So you're moving in that way. So what's different? Why? What is it that the district described in terms of the middle school? And I think that the heart of the program, as we attempt to describe it, and would be to talk about middle school in terms of teaming. In other words, you don't want a junior high school, which is what I went to when I was, which was basically a mini high school and you basically you're treating, a middle school kid as if they were a high school kid. And their program is dependent upon whereas you're looking at a team of students that are grouped together with a group of teachers who plan everything together in order to have a holistic program that meets their needs. For that to work, you need to create, in effect, a space where a group of teachers can work with a group of students. And that's the concept of a pod. And you want a program of study that allows them to control that time. So you don't want to suddenly have half your kids go to art and you're left with the other, otherwise you're heading towards a high school program where you're trying to get the schedule to resolve all those comings and goings. And so to do that, you need to have your arts programs operating as teams. And you have to have blocks of time whereby, everybody can go to that. Now, once you do that, that's why if you just put a single art room in a middle school where you're trying to team, that art room drives everything. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
It sort of breaks the team. So putting the middle school at the high school and giving yourself 2 to 3 art rooms, 2 or 3 music rooms, and you're scheduling in a way so that the high school can work around that schedule. You allow everyone to go at one time. And that's really the heart of the middle school program that you're trying to design. When the kids are all off, it also means that the team of teachers has time to plan. Because if you're going to have a team, they have to have time to figure out what they're doing. And so they can't have a team meeting unless all the kids they're responsible for are gone. Likewise for the music teachers, likewise for everyone else. So that's the concept, basically, for lack of a better word. A middle school classroom is kind of like a pod because so it's that kind of specificity in terms of...
Peter, this is music to my ears. I mean, trust me. I'm all about it in every way, shape, or form. I just think being able to express that to a larger populace will be a chore. And it's one that I embrace, actually. I'd like to do that. But I absolutely understand where you're coming from within that. But, just looking at it from afar, I'm not knocking the word choice at all, but pod and flex, I actually do know what that means, but somebody else doesn't.
They don't.
And, yeah.
And just to let you know, there is another term for pod that is not what that is.
Literacy
So,
is, yeah,
you know.
So I think maybe we need to create something of a glossary. I can work with Casey about that so that that comes out.
I think that's what I was looking
Because
for.
in terms of flex time, what that means is how do you accelerate and remediate at the same time? Right now, what people do is they pull the kids out or they send them to a room. And they don't get that work with their own teachers. So in the last 5 to 10 years, what has really worked is basically if you want to keep everybody together in some heterogeneous movement forward, along with being able to accelerate kids who are ready to accelerate and keep everybody that needs additional time to stay up with everyone else, you want that work to be done with their teachers. And so you create this flex time where you have the maximum amount of everybody's on deck for that group of kids. So those kids can go to the teacher or the specialist they need in order to maintain pace or accelerate in ways that are appropriate with their teachers.
It's just how to explain that to people without making a YouTube video.
Right.
That's
So-
basically what, you have to put it on a piece of paper to explain what you just said without just videotaping
Right, so
you and adding a link.
I got it, and so
that's, I
we'll
think what
work
he's
with
looking for.
Casey and we'll put something together.
All right, Dave?
I was just going to say that I think that people who are going to be best able and best capable in doing this explanation are going to be the teachers, because that's who I'm going to go to when I'm going, what does this new program look like and why are we doing this? So that there's two sort of two parts. One of them was a question, one of them was a comment. How much have we tried to get buy-in from the universe of middle school teachers that we have through the committee process? That's thing one. And thing two is if we haven't done much outreach with them, then we're going to have, I know since I'm not knocking teachers, but a lot of times they're like, oh, what, I got to do this now? And if they haven't bought in, then the sale is not sincere and everybody knows it.
They developed this.
It came from
It
the
came from
middle
our middle school
school
teachers.
teacher.
Okay, yeah, no, and that's great to hear. I
And
just,
elementary
Yeah.
committee, and we had a high school
Okay.
committee of
No, that's
staff.
good to
Not everybody was on it, but it was pretty well represented.
but I think that those folks, getting them to be sort of the evangelicals on this, whatever the decision is, would be important.
Yep, I agree. Angela?
Actually, I did think of a couple questions that I, sorry. Dead horse. I don't always have questions. The first one is the rationale why we decided on the 2-pod versus the 3-pod. But the building supports the 3-pod.
So that we can also have a 2-pod and grow to a 3.
Right, but it's more expensive. I know, but
Okay.
if it could hypothetically be cheaper if we decided to just do a 2-pod.
It would be, yeah.
Okay.
But not much, if I remember a previous
Not for
conversation.
building, you would save on the personnel, but not.
Okay, so from a building standpoint, the irony is that the size of a building is based on the number of kids it serves, not how many, spaces you carve it up into. So right now, the spaces in terms of the 3-pod, the actual core classrooms are smaller because the projected class size is smaller.
Right.
So if you create a 2-pod building, you have to make the core rooms bigger because there are going to be more kids in it. So the actual difference, according to John, from a building standpoint, of 2 to 3 pods is about $250,000, about $250,000 out of a $30 million building.
All right.
That said, but that's still significant, okay? That said, the real issue is for 2 pods, and I think the report tries to say this, is that if you look at the charts that talk about the number of personnel that you need in order to run 2 pods or 3 pods, the FTE is higher. Okay, so I think it's like almost 9 teachers higher in order to run 2 pods versus 3 pods. What that means is the choice before the board between 2 or 3 pods is how big do you want your class sizes? Okay, we have established that the core program can work in either model, so it comes down to how big are your class sizes, what are the resources that you have in order to provide additional support, and you have to put that up against the benefits of the cost of about 9 or 10 FTE, I believe, which could be $500,000 to $600,000 that you can redirect towards paying your bond. Okay, and that's really what that choice is. The building will be built in such a way that if you want to add the 3rd pod, you don't have to go through hoops to do it. I mean, if you, at some point down in the future, you want to bring more kids over, you want to realign your elementary schools again, you want to be able to do that flexibly without, and have that for a later decision. So once you give a sense of the parameters about 2 versus 3 pods, and you have that discussion as to what you're thinking, then the rest will fall into place in terms of what the design and the bond will look like. But that is a core decision that you have to decide. So I'm hoping that in the report there's the information that you need in order to have that, that values discussion as to what it is that we want to do.
And then my other question was about Orwell. So we're talking about adding the gym and kitchen. If we do build the middle school and take students out, I know that back wing, we had talked about like moving some other stuff, but is there a possibility of using that wing, renovating that wing for a school, I haven't been in the building, so I don't really know.
That's incorporated into the plan already.
Yeah.
There's some space taken from that area.
But could that couldn't be repurposed for gym or kitchen
No,
space?
it's not big enough.
Really only
No.
3 small.
Small.
Classrooms.
And then, just again, my concern about the other building on the property is that the cost for us to have to maintain that as well.
You mean the town hall?
Yeah.
The Orville Town Hall?
That comes down.
Yeah.
We'd have to make a decision as to, or the board would have to make a decision as what to do, as to what to do with that.
Just because I've already, I don't know, I have family in Orwell too, and they've
Comes down.
chirped about it.
It's going down.
Are we gonna have to renovate that too? Do you know what I mean? Like,
No.
Peter has spoken.
He has experience
You're gonna
down
give
the line.
Orwell the option, buy it, or if we keep it, we can tear it down, so it's coming down. Because I won't let Orwell buy it.
There you go.
It's coming down.
Yeah. So if you think of any other questions, you can always email them, preferably by Wednesday at the latest, because Cheryl gets to go on vacation.
He has
Yeah.
experience.
She does not want to answer
Yeah,
questions on
experience.
vacation.
I'm coming
And she
over.
won't be back till the
Right,
30th,
she
so
won't be back,
especially
right.
if they're financial
Yeah.
related.
Questions, yeah, yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to child find, please.
I have the handout.
So I can be brief. Brooke's
you.
just
Subject matter.
passing out a handout. As you know, every year we are monitored by the state on the federal requirements, and so it's just a handout indicating that the Agency of Education has completed their monitoring of last year, and they gave us this notice at the end of August, and found that there is no other work that needs to be done with regard to the 18-19 submission. On the child find initial evaluation timelines, we were found to be 97% compliant. We were 100% compliant with our transition of toddlers from the Part C program, which is for birth to 3, to the Part B program, which is our 3 to 5-year-old program, and that we were 100% compliance with our submission of post-secondary transition IEPs. So this is an annual submission and monitoring that we go through. It should be a desk monitoring again this year because they haven't found any notable difficulties or deficiencies. So just pleased to report that out to the board and acknowledge the hard work done by the special educators. Compliance is just one piece of the puzzle, but we have to maintain compliance in order to maintain our funding, which allows us to do the good work and hopefully get the outcomes that we're looking for.
Thank you. Any questions?
Good job.
Okay, nice work.
Thank you.
What are indicators 1 through 10?
There, I don't have that list in front of me, but I can share those with you if you want. They're just other aspects of compliance with regard to the federal requirements of IDEA. Some of them have to do with like discipline or making sure there are not disproportionate shares of students being disciplined or suspended or
And it's
those
all
kinds of-
roughly the same sort of compliance? or-
Correct. Yep.
All right, job description, teacher leader, we just need to approve it?
Yep, and I believe it was in your board packet, right?
Yep. All right.
So these are building-based stipended,
Stipended teacher, so teacher leaders.
yep,
Okay.
in our K-8 buildings.
Okay. Can I have a
Made the motion.
Second?
Second.
Second, Peter Site. Any discussion or questions?
Are these new or just a change in job description?
No, we,
You've been doing this.
we have not had job descriptions for stipended positions, so this is a start on creating job descriptions for those positions.
So these folks already exist in these.
They already
positions.
exist,
It's just giving
yep.
them
They've
guidelines.
existed for years in some of our buildings, yep.
And they're already receiving stipends for the
Yes.
job they're doing?
Yep,
Okay, yeah.
yep.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Board seat vacancy, so I believe the letters are here.
Right there.
Yep. So we have Tanya, is that how you say it? Who's here in our audience from, I believe, West Haven, who is interested in serving on the board. And it is our duty to do that. So do we ask her to say something?
Yeah,
or-
I told her that you would ask her
Yeah,
to say
yeah. So
something.
Tanya, if you would let us know kind of who you are and what your interest is, that'd be great.
Sure. So, I'm relatively new in the area. I moved here a year and a half ago and started a new district water trustee with my family. I have 2 kids in the grade school, 1 in the middle school. So I'm really happy to be here. This was a fascinating meeting, and I hope you guys were making big decisions, but they're enormous. So thanks for your work so far. I'm interested in, I guess, this being the way to get engaged in my new community. I care a lot about education fundraising and grant writing, communications in general, and environmental education and agriculture education. So it could bring any of that to the table, but also just could help however is needed.
Thank you, Tanya. So we just need to vote? Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Tanya?
Are you clear of the commitments, you know, the meeting schedule, et cetera?
Yeah.
You have to be on a committee or two, or three. Are we on 2 or 3, guys? What are we on? At
least
I can't even
two.
remember. At least 2. At least 2. Sometimes 3. So there are committees that meet usually before this meeting. Yep, so like
Yeah.
5:30, and then board meeting at 6:30. So we try to meet like before, so we're not out multiple nights, except if you're on negotiations, and then you get to be out a lot. So, I know, sorry, you still want to join. All right, so, okay, so any other questions? What?
I'd be happy to make the motion.
Would be, all right,
Good.
all right, Angela, there you go.
Angela sees.
I'll second.
So,
What?
Go ahead.
We Westies gotta keep in, you know, stay together.
So make the motion,
I'll
and
make the
Peter, you
motion.
seconded?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. All in favor of inviting Tanya to join our lovely board, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Woo! All right, Tanya, fantastic. So Brooke's gonna give
Thank
you
you.
like things you have to do before you can sit on a rolly chair. Even though I think yours rolls from
She's
what I'm
on a
looking at, I
rolly chair.
know. This place is full, you gotta be careful in here. When kids are here, they're flying places. in
Yeah,
the
you bet.
chairs.
I like these chairs.
They
You're
enjoy
in
it.
charge of reproducing one of these, okay?
Yeah, don't add that to my job.
Oh, Casey makes these?
Yeah, we'll
See if you
Okay, got it.
just past my place.
What's her name again? Tanya, with an A.
All right, excellent. Okay, central office report. I believe those were in our
Okay.
packets as well. Does anybody have any questions for the central office people report of them? Tim?
Most likely for Chris Benway, just curious to know
My daughter's best
a
friend.
timeline or how board
Eventually
members
we'll know.
should educate themselves
be a
about
little
this Act 173. Is this something that's in the near future, the far future? How are you going to introduce that topic to the board?
So we've been talking about it and sharing updates. That's part of Act 173 is part of the centralization piece in the new, the centralization started a couple years ago, but this is the overhaul of the refinancing for, overhaul of the financing of special ed. And it's probably one of the biggest changes that we've seen during our lifetimes in terms of educational change.
Oh, this is blocked.
So the piece that I included in the report is that timeline of how it's happening. And so it would have been even more significant this year with the doing away of the service plans for us in going to that block grant, but that's been delayed 1 year. So we're doing a service plan again this year, and then we'll be doing a service plan again next year in part as they move to the block
Actually,
grant.
I just heard on Friday that I don't think service plans may never go away.
Oh, all right.
The
So
latest.
Cheryl went to the VASBO meeting on Friday.
That
She
was
may
our
have more
good
recent
news. That made
information.
us all really cranky.
So there's a timeline for specific guidance that's supposed to be
Correct.
coming out from the Agency of Education. We have only received the first memo, which is very high level and stuff, you know, we kind of already knew, just what Chris had said, but we haven't received all of the specifics yet.
There is, if you go to the Vermont Agency of Education and search on Act 173, they do have an overview presentation. It's kind of a PowerPoint that gives you a whole bunch of slides that you can read through for an overview on
And there are-
Act 173 of 2018.
And there's a monthly meeting at the statewide level of folks that come up and are trying to figure out the rules and how the rules are going to operate under the new funding system. So as Brooke has said, there's a lot to be determined, and there's not a lot that we know at this point around those details.
We can certainly send you the links to that information.
I'm assuming the overall goal is to reduce costs and increase efficiency, right? That's
Right.
Correct.
It's always the goal.
It's everything we do in education.
Oh, that's always the goal. All right, any other questions about the central office reports? Okay. Other business. So we do have a request that I believe is in your packet.
I think Chelsea put it in there.
From John Gallo. Did you guys read that request in your?
No,
is that right?
it's
No?
not
Okay,
up to
all right.
date.
Hello, I am writing this email as a formal request to Slate Valley Unified School Board regarding the decision to assess my compensation with an unpaid personal day on August 23rd, 2019 of this school year, which was the first day for teachers, right?
Right.
Was the first in-service day for teachers of this school year. On the day in question, I was transporting my son to his freshman year in college in the Midwest. I request that the school board reverse this decision and reinstate my compensation for that day. I feel that as an educational institution whose mission is to support families and students in their pursuit of educational opportunities, I should be granted a personal day with pay to take my child to his first day of college. I appreciate your consideration in this manner and hope that you join me in supporting families and the pursuit of academic endeavors. Respectfully, John Gallo. So when I heard this, my first question to Brooke was, did anybody else request this day off, and what happened with them?
So we had 9 teachers request the first day off. All but one were for personal days. The master agreement does not allow personal days on the first or last day of school, so they were granted without pay. And so to reverse that, they would have to come to the board for you to reverse that.
So just to be clear, he was allowed to do what he needed to
Correct.
do. It's just he wasn't getting paid for it.
Correct.
But he wasn't docked anything as far as anything but pay. It
Right.
doesn't impact his
Correct.
benefits, it doesn't impact anything long-term.
As was 8 other individuals.
Seven of
Seven
those,
other.
because one was a sick day for a legitimate reason.
And this is in the master agreement.
It's in the master agreement.
Yep. So do we need to vote on it?
I
Okay.
think you should vote
Can
on
I
it.
ask a question? Is there any reason we're not discussing this in executive session?
Yeah, because it's part of the master agreement, it's not secret.
I mean, it's not about performance or
Right.
anything like
Yep.
that.
Yep. So would anybody like to make a motion, or do we, I mean, we need to make a decision, so we need a motion one way or the other to yes, reinstate pay, or no, to keep as is.
Make a motion to keep it as is.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion?
I'm sorry, can you?
Keep it as unpaid. Yep. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good.
No need, executive.
Yep, but we
What's
have, you want
that?
warrants. I
Oh,
spelled it
do
wrong.
warrants.
Yep, warrants, please.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to pay warrants for Slate Valley in the amount of $2,269,401.08.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrants for Capital Reserve Fund in the amount of $12,982.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion for food service in the amount of $75,657.35.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to pay grants in the amount of $64,477.26.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, great, thank you. Now we need to go into executive session for a personnel matter.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, just
So
the
they can go.
All right, just the superintendent would be great.
I'm not sure exactly how to do it, but I'd like to make a motion to follow the master agreement, Article 1310, in regards to a
Teacher request,
teacher request.
or former.
Perfect. Awesome. All right.
I'll
Any
second
other-
it.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the next one?
Can you want me to read it?
No.
Or he's got it right?
He's got it. Oh, you got it. Go for it, Mike.
Mike's got it.
I move that we accept the request for student 1233822 to attend Fairhaven Grade School.
Second.
Discussion?
I would just wonder if we should put a beginning date on that.
We don't know when the beginning date is.
Oh, we don't, okay.
For
think
the
it's as soon as-
2019,
Okay,
2020
that's fine,
school
yep.
year.
There you go.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, but it follows, they don't have to reapply each year.
Right,
Yeah,
but they're
starting
asking-
in that, you're right, you
Starting
don't have
that
to
year.
reapply.
Beginning in this year, yeah.
I already said all in favor, right?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Opposed? Excellent. All right, I need agenda building quick. What do we got for next time?
Innovation
Innovation
Committee.
answers and any other,
The
yeah?
principal's report.
Okay.
We have a student presentation coming up.
at Benson-
Well,
are we at
originally
Benson?
we're in
Yes.
Benson, but I had told Amy originally that we didn't need to do one that night because it was supposed to be the board retreat. So I will have to ask her if she has one or not.
I'm just
So
curious.
possibly, but then October, yeah.
No worries either way.
Are we in the right sequence of meetings? Cancellation, nothing's changed?
No, because we did that emergency one the day after
So
Labor
it's
Day.
the first and third, the second and fourth?
September was different, because of
Labor Day.
Labor Day.
Can you do me a favor and just tell me what we're on now, because my calendar was all messed up too, so,
So it's the 30th,
yep, I got that one.
and then the next one's the 14th.
Okay, so the
And
second
the
and the fourth.
28th.
Yep,
It's
okay.
mostly the 2nd and the 4th, except when you get to November, Veterans Day screws it up, and so it's
October
actually a
14th is the
Tuesday.
second Monday?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because October starts on September 30th. Or like, you know what I mean? The week starts on September 30th.
That was great.
The week starts on September 30th.
If you get the app for
Monday.
your phone, all the meetings are on it. I managed.
I had them
Slate
all in
Valley
there,
app,
and then they
the
got,
Slate Valley
Oh, the
app.
I had them all in
Slate
there, and then
Valley app.
something switched with that 14, I don't know, there was something.
Are they still working on like
Yes,
adding
the Slate Valley has an app, so if you get that for your phone, they're all
Slate
in
Valley.
there.
But like
Innovation
the
meetings are-
practices and stuff aren't in there yet,
We don't have
right?
any
We don't
more
have any
right
more, they're
now.
over.
Yeah.
Wow.
'Cause it's
So
well,
did you
it's
say
the
we're
board.
not having a retreat?
Correct.
Okay.
because
But
we
we're
got-
having a regular board meeting that night.
Okay, yep, yep.
So like,
We're not having an innovation meeting before the 30th.
What is it under?
Slate
Well, we're
Valley.
gonna
Yeah,
discuss it here.
yeah, I have the app,
Oh, okay.
but what is it?
Under the
Where's
slate, go to the little building.
Events?
events?
I don't know, I'm checking. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Slate Valley Finance Committee meeting, board meeting, policy meeting, building and grounds, board meeting, teacher negotiations. It's all in here.
You
All
got it?
right, so I'll just download the
My
app. and then
events
I
are
should be all
different.
set.
You're under Benson. I don't know how you got under Benson.
There's a little building
You
there.
get to
go
pick
that
your
building.
You gotta go to the building
You
on
gotta
the
go
top.
under
Okay.
no school to
Unif-
get all events.
Okay.
You go to the little building, no, there's Slate Valley Unified
So
School
Slate
District
Valley
there.
Unified and then
top
events,
choice.
it's all board meetings.
can we
So
ask the
that's what the app is called,
coaches to
Slate
put
Valley?
their practices and meets and stuff in?
They're in there.
They are.
They're on digital.
They're on it.
They're on a different
Yeah.
athletic
Yeah.
calendar, I
Find
believe,
it.
so they don't.
Oh, maybe they weren't a
No,
week
they're
ago.
all in the
Maybe they've
same-
just been
No,
late.
they're all in here.
They're all in there.
Right now they are?
They've
Yep.
been in there.
They have.
If
You
you
go
live
to
in
the
Orwell, though, you
individual
gotta look under
school.
Benson.
That's where it occurs.
The only, yeah, that's the only thing you have to,
didn't go
that's
there.
what got you mixed up.
Because I went to go
Alright.
look and I couldn't find stuff.
Because when you go
Individual
there,
school.
it says where.
So if you
the
look
airplane
I looked into the
is.
All
individual
right, meeting to
school.
adjourn, or motion to adjourn.
I figured that out.
So moved.
Second.
Two people that you think you heard a voice of.
Aye, aye, aye.